Welcome to Push Go, a podcast that highlights the defining moments of how we live and work. Each week, we're going to break down those defining moments. And this week, we're excited to have Brian Storms on. Brian has spent quite a bit of time at Hinkle. His roles there have been primarily within the category roles, kind of the commercial U.S. sales. He's currently the VP of Commercial and Operational Excellence. And he's also a husband of one and father of three. So can't wait for you to hear about Brian's story. And the story is going to take you through those moments where he went from being this individual contributor, excellent at what he did and delivering results day in and day out, but that epiphany, that defining moment when he realized, gosh, not only am I going to be a leader, but how do I become this emotional and healthy leader? And what does that look like moving forward? Can't wait for you to hear Brian tell his story. Hey, it is great having Brian Storms in the building today, man. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, great having you here today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, for folks that don't know, Brian, we have mutual friends that have kind of connected us over the years, which has been fantastic. But tell us from whence you came. So walk us through kind of that high school kind of thing. So where did you kind of grow up and how did you get to here?
Yeah, I grew up in North Little Rock.
Okay.
Went to Catholic high school in Little Rock.
All right.
Went through parochial school in the Little Rock area and then ended up at Catholic High. Graduated from there and all the way through thought I was going to Notre Dame. And
you were a domer. Okay.
We thought you were
going to be a domer.
I thought I was.
Did you have a group of family domers that were like,
no,
man, you've got to go?
So growing up in Catholic schools, that was kind of a thing. And like football was really the thing.
Right. And they played tackle football in the intramurals, which is really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my senior year, I ended up getting a scholarship to U of A and a free education versus a very expensive one.
Okay.
I made a late pivot to University of Arkansas.
Now, so as you're thinking about going to school, from a degree standpoint, what you were going to study in Notre Dame was a little bit different than kind of the path you took at Arkansas? I
don't think I knew what I wanted to do.
Okay. So
I knew I wanted to be in just general business.
Okay.
So that was a unexpected benefit, U of A and the
Bud Walton.
The School of Business there. Again, an unintended consequence, but a really great one. And ended up getting a finance degree from U of A. Okay.
So you started the general business. Were you always a math kid, like a finance kid, or is this?
I was always good at math. I don't know that I necessarily thought that was the path I was going to go.
The world is made of math.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Math world we live in, man.
Yeah. I figured if I could handle financials, I could do something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay. So we started down that path, in the world of finance. Did you think you would end up in the CPG kind of world? Now, obviously the world we live in here, there's a lot of that around us. Or were you thinking investment banking? I mean, where was kind of your head? Because accounting is different than finance. I know that much. Yeah. So you're going the finance route. So what were you thinking as you're finishing up? I
was thinking the investment route. I actually took a job with Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah.
And as I was about to start that job, I got another opportunity with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And that's ended up being where I started my career. I knew several people who had taken that path and had really progressive careers and really enjoyed it. So I did another late pivot to the automotive industry, which was not fun.
Okay, so you're at Enterprise, and was that Enterprise local, or did they have you somewhere else?
It was in Fayetteville. And I ended up almost out of day one kind of doing my own thing. So at the time, what is now Fayetteville Auto Park was Landers. Yeah. And so there's multiple dealerships. And so I went down there and I basically ran my own branch. I hand wrote contracts.
Did you really?
In a suit and tie, running between dealerships. 20
nothing.
And yeah. 21.
Barely old enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I technically wasn't old enough to rent a car on my own. Because you had to be 25, but I was writing other people into contracts for those cars.
Okay, so how long did you do that?
I did it for about 2 years, and then I got the opportunity to get into the CPG side of the world.
Okay, And I'd love to talk about opportunities because I'm a big relationship guy. And I believe that, listen, most successful, engaging opportunities follows that road of relationships. So was it a random person? Was it a person you knew? How did you go from not even engaging in CPG, you're in the finance world, in automotive.
Yeah.
How did you make that leap? What was the relationship that got you there?
Yeah, my wife started her career out of school at Nestle.
Okay.
And so she built some connections.
So you started to see, you saw that world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which I honestly, this is crazy. I wasn't familiar at all with CPG, even through 4 years of the Walton School of Business.
Okay.
It just wasn't as prevalent as what it is now, right? They gear curriculum to
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah. Now I want to pause for a second because I'm going to get yelled at later if I don't do this. Consumer product goods.
Consumer packaged goods.
So consumer packaged goods, CPG, go. Okay. So you really didn't know what it was. Your wife jumped into that world in Nestle. You started to get an idea of what that looked like, but you're still a finance guy at heart, right? You said finance kind of coming in.
Yes.
So tell me again, kind of how did you make that leap though? The relationship, she saw it, had a few connections.
Yeah. So we had a mutual friend, Kit Brown, and he at the time worked at Acosta Sales and Marketing. Okay. And he got me an interview, and the rest is history.
Okay. And so what was the first role outside of enterprise cars? You're going down this path, CPG. What was the first role?
I was a category analyst at Acosta, which doesn't look like a typical CPG category analyst because it's a retail sales broker, and particularly Walmart, it was a retail team. So really I was supporting Acosta for a number of different CPG companies, supporting their retail sales force that was out in the field, visiting stores every day.
Okay.
But it was big data. I mean, you're talking about store level data, for item level data, for 100 different suppliers across the span of Walmart. So dealing with massive data. Yeah. And that was like a crash course in analytics for CPG. It was great.
So from a collegiate standpoint, education, that was big data before big data was cool. Okay. So you weren't studying, you weren't studying that in school.
No,
figure that out at all. But as I look at that type of work, you went from this entrepreneurial kind of thing on your own, but you're still a one-man show, right? You're lowering your head, getting the contracts done.
Yep.
And this analyst piece, this isn't like you're managing 50 people, right? I mean, you are, I don't want to say you're in a cubicle by yourself, but you are lowering your head, getting work done. So was that still at a point where you're excited about that every day, or were you so engrossed in the numbers it didn't matter? From a career standpoint, you were feeling pretty good about the role you're taking?
Yeah. I mean, it was all, at that point, my whole life through school, through first jobs, you're an individual contributor. Okay. Right. And so your value is what your output is, right? I didn't have anyone. I wasn't responsible for anyone. I was responsible for myself and contributing to that role.
So you knew at the end of the day, I did X, therefore it was great. You've got your boss and other people saying, love you, love what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you're kind of tracking along there. They gave you tremendous exposure, again, from a category standpoint. So where'd the path lead you from there?
So I had a few progressions at Acosta where I actually did then evolve into having a team of people. And then ultimately I started to play a different role. So I had been Acosta for the most part at that point was fully immersed in the retail side of it. They weren't doing a lot of headquarter functions. So actually helping their supplier partners to understand their business from retail link data and that perspective to actually manage their business to how they present it then to Walmart. So we started to kind of break into that world. We were like, hey, we think we can help you. We have exposure to all these different suppliers, and we're hearing what's going on at Walmart and taking it from a bunch of different angles. And so we kind of kicked that off, and I did that for a few months. And then a woman that had worked with me at Acosta recommended me for the Hinkle job. And I took the interview, and it was a great opportunity. So I made the shift.
So you've gone recommendation to recommendation to recommendation. So you're starting to follow this whole relationship path, which is fantastic.
Absolutely.
At that point, were you pretty confident in the people side of things? Or are you still looking at yourself kind of as a lower your head, get stuff done?
Still fully focused on the individual contribution component. while I had a brief stint of managing people at Acosta, it wasn't a leadership role. It was more of there is a team of people and we all contribute something towards an end goal. So the leadership component hadn't really kicked in yet.
Yeah. So we want to transition to that because I don't want to keep going down the career path, but as you and I have talked before, the leadership piece and having someone believe in you was that defining moment. That's the moment where someone said, you can do this.
Yep.
So you transition at that time into Hinkle.
Mm-hmm.
You get that first role. You're still kind of doing the individual thing. So who started pouring into you and how did that work out? That really started to let you know you can do this.
So I was so fortunate. I had some amazing leaders along the way, and I was still in individual contribution roles, but contributing well, showing the ability to think strategically, positively impact a business. That's when the conversations start of, do you want to lead businesses versus contribute towards, someone else leading it?
And that's a ton of people are when they hear that, they're like, yeah, that's a step.
Right.
Because you kind of control your own destiny. Right. I mean, I know I can control this. And now you're saying I'm responsible for other folks. So is that a stress point? Did you get excited about that? You're like, yeah, we'll see.
I don't think I fully understood it. I know I didn't fully understand it.
Okay. All right. Speak to that a little bit.
So when I took my first true leadership role, we moved to Minneapolis and I was the team lead of our target team. So no one else there. No one else is there, right? It's me. And then the 11 people that ran that team. And
they all look at you every day like, so what 100%. Are we going to do?
Yeah. Like, where's the direction? What are we doing? How are we doing? So do
you have a manual, like a rule book?
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
So, I started that with the same mentality, right? Like you've lived your whole life and succeeded on your contributions. And so then it was, okay, it's results, right? Like we'll just get the results. And honestly, that business was in distress. And so I'm going in and trying to fix it and change ways of working, change the culture of that team. And all I had in my mind was results, right? If we can post the results, then we've done what we came here to do. Right. There was a moment, probably a year in, we're posting great results. And I'm taking pride in the fact that, man, like we came here and we're posting great results. We've turned the culture. And I took pride in the fact that, man, if I were to leave, would it fall apart? And in that moment, I was like, wait a minute. If I left and it fell apart, I have failed miserably as the leader of this team.
I built it. And if I left today and it fell apart, I failed miserably because it really was dependent upon you.
I was still individually contributing.
Even though you had 11 people reporting to you, you're leading an organization, you still had that same mentality.
I was taking pride in my individual value versus the ability of the team to carry forward without me.
What clicked? What was that push go? What made you think?
One, that thinking, right?
Okay.
The thinking around, man, if I left, this might not go well.
So that was the
I had people telling me, I had my boss telling me, man, Brian, if you were to ever leave, that this is really bad. And at first I was like, awesome.
Yeah, great.
I'm doing really well. They really need me. And then I thought about it and I was like, that's actually not very good.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really what I'm here to do. I'm not here to get results. I am, but I'm here to lead a team to deliver those results and be able to carry it forward, whether I'm there or not.
Had you ever heard at that time that the concept of you as a leader, you're trying to work your way out of a job?
Yeah.
But
it
wasn't registering that
the
goal is to grow other leaders so that they can be self-sufficient.
100%.
And it hadn't quite, because you're a finance guy, you missed the old management class you slept through over here. At least talked about it, right?
Yeah.
So that realization hit. So what do you do now?
So that at that point, I started seeking feedback from my team.
Great first step.
Yeah.
Big idea.
Yeah. Gave them the avenues to give me feedback where they could really give me feedback. So, They could do it anonymously. They could do it in whatever channel they wanted to, instead of being like, "Hey, face to face, tell me what I'm doing wrong
Which
here."
is tough. Yeah.
Because you're not going to get people to be like, "Well, let me give you the list here." So I gave them the ability to kind of do a start, stop, continue ish feedback, and then if you had any other base feedback.
So speak to that process a little bit, because again, you've got someone that heard that's like, yeah, it makes sense intuitively, but there's 1,000 ways to make that happen.
Right.
So when you're coming in and say, here's our start, stop, continue, here's the process. Was it meetings? Were there quarterly sessions? I mean, how did you get that into the culture so that when you did left, the next person that came in, there's still a start, stop, continue process going through. So how did that look?
So I let everyone's feedback accumulate until everyone was done. So I gave them time to kind of formulate their thoughts and say what they needed to say. And then I would, without reading them, they would hand it to me live on the spot. So I can't, curate responses or, honestly, and this is a big part of it, is justify behavior. Is I would take it live and we would sit in a conference room, and man, I had some red face moments where it's like reading something about yourself for the first time, and like the first time I did it, getting some of the negative feedback, I was like, oh my God, like they're all staring at me. I would read it out loud to the whole group and be like, hey, yeah, I mean, you're just naked in that conference room, everyone looking at you like, how are you going to respond to that?
Yeah.
But that humility, the like humbling myself to the feedback was huge, but it also really started this path for me about self-reflection and maturity, and how important that is. And that ultimately over time evolved into getting a coach, an external coach.
Okay. So we're going to speak to that in a second. So what I heard as you're going through that is that there is confidence in being a contributor, and you started to get confidence as a leader.
Right.
But we're also intuitive enough to realize there's still things you don't know. People can give you feedback, but it doesn't mean you can fix it.
Right.
So now you're looking for a coach. So you just 1-800-COACH, you Google coach. I mean, so what do you mean a coach? I mean, not everyone gets a coach, but so how did that come about?
I asked Hinkle, hey, look, new leader, we're delivering results, but there is I think the way that I articulated it is there's a clear disconnect between what I overtly show as a leader and what I feel like I am and want to be.
Okay.
I had this thing where I would say, hey, the people that know me and work closely with me over time, they know this about me, but not everyone does.
Okay.
That's a big disconnect. And for me, it was like, I need to figure out how to show who I am and how that person that's known me for 2 years and worked with me and will give me grace and all of those things. I need someone to feel that based on my everyday behavior.
Okay.
I don't want this disconnect of like, you have to get to know me for you to feel the leader that I want to be.
All right.
Right. And so I went to the organization. I was like, I need help with this. Like, I don't know why I can't do that.
So not everyone shows up every day saying, here's what I'm looking for like that, which is fantastic. So props to you for going down that path. And I know it's not easy. So how'd they respond?
They did it. It was awesome. And again, that's not a typical investment,
no.
Especially external, right? It would typically be, hey, and this was the first step was, we'll give you a mentor.
Yeah. We've got a person over here that you can talk to twice a year. It's fantastic. And just email back and forth. It'd be great. As a matter of fact, it'll help their career because now they're a mentor.
Yeah. And I was like, not inside the organization. I want to be able to just say everything I got to say. I want someone who professionally, because this is more about, for me, I was like, this is more about like social, emotional intelligence,
EQ
awareness,
kind of stuff. Yeah, that's good.
Internal maturity. Like, why am I rationalizing this behavior?
Almost a little counseling in there as well. So you got
for sure
a coach that they're coming alongside. And so at that point in time, you're talking to your wife about it. She says, great idea.
Oh yeah.
This is going to help you in more ways than one.
Oh yes. So my wife loves my coach, and really, to your point, I feel like she's my therapist. Her name is Wendy Van Beesen. I have to throw that out there.
Throw that out there.
Because she is amazing.
And is she a individual contributor, part of an organization?
She is part of an organization, but based on my engagement with her over that span of time, I think she pretty much
You've been with her how long now?
Needs to. We were together for it was supposed to be for a few months, and I got it extended for a while, and then she was amazing, and we kept talking even after we stopped paying her, and so we were together probably for like 18 months, and fantastic. Speaking pretty regularly.
Okay, so as you're going through that process, and you're still in Minneapolis while all this is going on, or had you transitioned here?
I was in the middle of transitioning back to Arkansas. Okay,
transitioning back here, and what type of role were you transitioning back into? Because you're independent, running a team. I know what it's like to go from team to back into a machine, reporting up to another team.
Right.
So what kind of role were you transitioning into here?
Similar role to run a segment of our Walmart business.
Big piece of business over here, individual reporting up to you. Now you've got a reputation because they're all emailing like, hey, so what's this Storms guy like? Is he a jerk? What you guys are coming in here? And so as you're transitioning back in, knowing what you knew about yourself at that time, were you more confident? Were you more cautious? Because this is a brand new start. How did you transition in to start and not make the same mistakes? And how did you have kind of that new approach? Because obviously you don't want to start the same way.
Right.
Makes no sense at all. You have all this new coaching and engaging. So what was different, do you think, in hindsight, looking back at the start here?
And this may not make sense, but I definitely was not more confident. Okay. I went in to the Target job as confident as I could be, right? Like I always succeeded.
Yeah,
right? This is just the next thing.
How hard can this be?
The failure there comes with the self-reflection and the like, I'm on a almost daily basis tackling this, like, I really need to grasp what leader I want to be, what I care about, how I approach people, how I manage people, how I lead people, how I treat people, how I care for people.
But let's speak to that. You say you use the word failure. I'm gonna do a little counseling here, coaching for you. In many ways, you are a crazy success, but yet in your mind, you saw the issues in front of you. Therefore, I wasn't successful. So, was failure a word that just came out, or you truly thought, I have failed as a leader, I need another shot?
We posted the results. I succeeded from a result standpoint. We turned a business that was in 8 years of compound decline to 28% growth in year one and 13% growth in year two.
But as a leader, you would say,
as a leader, I failed.
Felt like you failed. Okay.
I did fail.
Would your team and Target say the same thing?
Yes and no. Again, this component of over time,
it got better.
There's a realization of who I am, and that I truly care about them. And there were moments where I could prove that, right? Where I could put them above the business, put them above myself, and prove it. Day to day, probably didn't feel always great being around me, right? And that was the piece that I wanted to understand is, where does the passion shift into intensity? Where does my comfort with conflict push people to where they're uncomfortable?
But I love that defining moment of, while the outside world could look at success, numbers, drive, you knew intuitively, to be the leader you needed to be, you had to work on some things. You've got a coach, you've got a brand new beginning here. So how did things start out?
It was great. I was still so top of mind because I'm having these conversations every day. I'm starting to overtly be what I wanted to be and what you would see in me if you really knew me. You started seeing the baby steps, the success. You see the path to being successful. And mainly stopping rationalizing certain behaviors that, well, once they get to know me, that'll be okay. Right? I can be intense. I can be overly comfortable with conflict. I can do these things because they'll eventually understand it. And, people ultimately will understand me and respect me and understand that I care about them. I was starting to kick those out where it's like, I don't have to prove it. they see it, they feel it every day.
Okay.
And I got a couple moments of validation early that's when the confidence kicked in.
All right.
You know, individuals moving on to different things in their career, sending text messages that I keep.
Oh, wow.
That, you know, life-changing moments for them of like a certain woman, and I won't say her name just because I don't know if she would want me to share this, but she was making a full industry life change, moving her family closer to family and getting out of CPG. She told me that I was the first person that ever gave her the confidence to go do what she wanted to do with her life, right? Like,
wow.
She didn't have a college degree, but she had been so successful, and she was leading a business in CPG without a college degree. I mean, that tells you the caliber of person that she was. But she always wanted to do this other thing and go do it, and she didn't have the confidence to do it. She didn't think she could do it because she didn't have a college degree, whatever. So for her to say that, I'm like,
yeah,
we're making progress, right? Like that instead of some of the things that I worried about, like I would have never thought that I would be that person for her, right? That I gave her the confidence to go do these things that she had been struggling with and wanted to do for a long time. I had another, you know, long-term Hinkle employee send similar feedback. And she felt like she would never be strategic enough to be a leader. And then she went on to go, I always told her, I was like, I will work for you once you realize that you're a leader.
That's so good.
So she went on and did it.
Yeah.
So
you put you're pouring into other folks. You see it. You're the coaching piece. Now, that's a couple of years in. So how long have you been in the current role today? Here?
Today, 5 years.
So 5 years. So looking at this point, 5 years back, are you where you need to be? I mean, we all have. Take it back. We all have room to grow. Listen.
Yeah.
For people listening, thank goodness Rick realizes there's room for him to grow. You know,
Yeah.
So. But are you at a point where not only the confidence is there, but are you in a good place?
I think the best word I can use is I am the most peaceful I have been in my career about what I want to be and what I am meeting.
Peaceful. That's a great word.
Yeah.
Peaceful.
Yeah. Peaceful, content, like obviously still working every day, make mistakes every day, but in totality, I am at least overtly the leader and the person that I want to be. And I've really nailed down those things that are most important to me. And I have those things and I can articulate those things clearly, you know, around truth and caring about people and people first. And being able to prove that not just in those big moments, but every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the intentionality of that, is that you're coming into work or the role every day and, you know, here are my weak spots and this is what I've been growing, trying to do. And just the aspect of engaging someone so that they see you in these terms and it doesn't take them 2 years to see 20 instances and finally I know who you are, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
What's it look like one-on-one with you? You got the team thing. So now you've got person you work with over here, or maybe a friend outside of work, and you're kind of pouring into them. Do you feel the same kind of comfort now that you can be the mentor or a coach? I mean, have you taken on roles like that where you feel like you can play that role?
But I don't have any formal. I'm not doing that formally.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I do embrace there's a exact example right now is I've got a guy on my team that has fully and completely earned the opportunity to take the next really big step in his career and become he is shifting from individual contributor into going to lead a team. And I feel like I have been able to give him some of those things.
Yeah.
I've been able to coach him through the process of like, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Like, take it from me. Make sure your mindset is shifting from day one, that you are no longer an individual contributor, that you are a leader, and that is the most important thing. So yeah, I mean, there is absolutely a mentorship. It's not, honestly, it's not intentional. I'm not like proactively seeking to go do it. But as you ask the question, I'm thinking through it, and it's like, yeah, I'm serving the purpose.
All right. Well, I'm going to warn you, because people are going to listen to this conversation, and they're going to go into LinkedIn. They're going to find Storms, Storm,
ES.
ES. You
Yeah.
get to have the E in there. It takes you to 4 or 5 people you don't want to see. It's ES guy. And they're going to say, I want to go work for this guy. Or I want to have coffee with this guy.
Yeah.
Because they see the truth that's coming out in this conversation. It's like, yeah, even if you're not working for Brian, you'd love to get a piece of that or kind of engage or a little bit. So I'm going to warn you,
Yeah.
you're going to get those kind of phone calls, which is important. But as you look at what's next for you, I mean, obviously we don't talk about, career state Hinkle. You'll be at Hinkle for 20 more years.
Yeah.
Hinkle, trust me, we're going to be there forever. But do you see yourself progressing to that next big role of managing more folks? Do you see yourself kind of being more of a specialist again over here? I mean, where do you see what's next for Brian?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Okay. There are obviously career paths that are clear for what's next. Particularly
let me ask it a safer way for you. Is it a much safer way to ask this? You've got a taste, more than a taste, of being the leader.
Right.
And you had this individual contributor thing over here. Are you confident now? It's man, I'm on the leadership track and I'm going to push for it. I'm going to strive for it because that's the path I want to go down. I mean, are you at that point now where you're like, yeah, this is me now. I feel confident I can take the big job.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you're there.
I have confidence in taking on leadership roles.
Fantastic.
I also have confidence in just the business acumen to go do other things as well, whether that's private equity, whatever it may be. But the nice thing is, and I had this conversation with someone else the other day, is like you kind of build this skill set that says, I want to be able to do what I decide I want to do. I don't know what I want to do 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. I might still be rocking and rolling in similar roles at Hinkle, or I may be doing something completely different.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that I have had a pretty substantial chunk of leadership, and I now have the confidence that I can do that. But I also know I can be an individual contributor, and I can bring an acumen to a business to do things in that manner. And then at this point, there's probably never a point at which I'm not going to have to lead in some form or fashion.
At this stage, that's good. That's good. So my wife and I were both CPG people at the same time. So I get your life. You're talking acronyms all the time. You're like, oh, my acronym is this and that. It's fantastic. If someone wanted to get in touch with you and they're listening to this, are you a LinkedIn guy? Is that the best way?
I'm on LinkedIn, yes.
Okay. Find you there. And what's your favorite coffee shop here? If they're going to find you at a coffee shop, where are they going to find you?
I am a Keurig at home kind of guy.
Keurig at home, but where do you hang out though? Where are they going to find you hanging out?
Yeah, I mean, anywhere.
Are you a baseball field kind, like chasing kids around?
Yeah. I was about to say I have 4, 6, and 8-year-olds, so you're gonna find me probably carpooling somewhere to get one of them somewhere to the next place. But no, I love outdoor sports. I love this area. I mean, I'll say this: whatever their interest is, I'll meet them at that.
Fantastic. That's good. Listen, Brian, man, really appreciate the time today. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Push Go. We had a great time today talking to Brian Storms from Hinkle. His story was fantastic. As always, if you'd like to know more information, you can always go to our website, listen.plumshop.com, or here in the show notes, we've got more information. And make sure you tell your friends. I mean, leave us a review, subscribe wherever you listen or you view podcasts. We really appreciate that. Until next time.